A while back, I did a tour of my 1970 Winnebago around the outside, and I got a lot of people that wanted to see the inside. And I also mentioned in that video I would do a tour of the inside someday. Well, I really haven't had a chance to clean out the Winnebago this year, but I do have it opened up. It's airing out, and I thought I would just kind of pan around, show you what the inside looks like, and talk about my intentions with this Winnebago. Now, I'm not new to restoring things like this. My dad and I actually restored a 1972, I think it was a D20 or D22. We restored it on the inside, and it looked immaculate. It actually looked really good. That being said, after we restored it, this thing popped up online, and I just fell in love with it and had to have it. The issues with that is it took over a year to restore the original 1972 Winnebago, and I just wanted to use this. And so I said, well, you know, the way it sits, it is usable, and I will just enjoy it, and then someday go back and restore it like I did the other one. Now, it may look a little rugged and well used, and well, that's because it is. It is 50 years old. This is a 1970 Winnebago. This seat actually came out of the 72, and I've already talked to some reupholsterers to have these redone, and so my intentions are to get these into a chocolate color and then run the Flying W across the back of this double seat, and then have this one redone in the same material as well. And the upholsterer guy I talked to, he's actually really good, said that would not be a problem. I just need to pull the trigger and get them to him. The door panels, I do actually have the other door panel in storage, and it looks just as good. It was just detached when we got it. The dash needs a little rework. This Winnebago is exactly as I bought it. I literally bought it and just have been using it. There's been some mechanics taken care of, but other than that, the way you see it is the way I bought it, and it hasn't really changed any at all. Now, the dinette seats have been reupholstered. The original seats were just, they weren't even usable. They were really bad. So these are actually out of another camper, but they fit with a little bit of modifications, and that's what I've been using. So that works. Eventually, we'll reupholster them again and kind of redo the interior in this whole Winnebago. Now, I apologize for how dark it is. I cannot seem to get any more light in here, but basically the things I really liked about this Winnebago was how much open it was compared to the shorter one I had. The shorter one was pretty cramped, and I just wanted more room, and this is 27 feet long, and it feels like it too. The whole front is just really open. There's just a lot of space between the cabinets. When you have that front bunk folded up, because it is a bunk, it just gives you a lot of headroom. It just gives you an open feel on this end, and that seat does rotate all the way around to kind of give you a second seat inside your living space. So when you're camping, we usually just spin that around. It gives us another seat that we can use. Now, the bathroom on this, it's a little dirty. Again, I just opened this up for the first time this year and just kind of wanted to show you guys what it looked like. But you can see it has its own shower stall, kind of separated from the actual business room over here. Of course, it needs cleaned up and it's really dirty, but that's part of the fun of camping, is you have to dig these things out once a year and clean them up really well. There are two closets, one on each side over here in the back, and of course it needs cleaned too. Oh, and there's also a built-in vacuum cleaner that is original to the RV. Now, I did tear this apart, clean it up, give it a paint job, and it works great. But yes, they came with a built-in vacuum cleaner on the Chieftain models. That was definitely an option. This one still works. The refrigerator is actually really big for a camper fridge on this model, and it's actually the original one, and it works really well. Now, this Winnebago, and I remind you, it's 1970. From the factory, came with level indicators for the holding tanks. It's basically when you hold the level one way, or the switch one way, I should say, it tells you how much is in the water tank, and when you flip it the other way, it tells you how much is in the holding tank. It was a pneumatic system. You pressurize the water tanks. It does have the original tanks, but I've done away with the air pump, and I've put on a regular SureFlow water pump, and I did tie it back into the switch, so when you flip the switch, it turns it on. Again, other than that, I've just kind of kept it running, and really haven't done anything else to this. I just wanted to enjoy it before I tore into it and restored it. Now, the back of this Winnebago is a little different than most RVs that you see today. It has two single beds on each side and kind of a nightstand in the middle, which is kind of cool. This actually unfolds into a bed, but it flips up into storage so you can get out the second rear entrance door, which is exceptionally rare in these Winnebagos. I kind of like it because if somebody's working in the kitchen and you want to get into the back of the Winnebago, you could just choose the back door instead of the front door. So that's kind of cool. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is a Chieftain, and the Chieftain pretty much spared no expense in the coolness factor or the technology of the time. If you look at this dash, you can see there's kind of some cool gauges and stuff that look like they're kind of added on. Over here on the side is the battery charger indicator, and you can see if your alternator is charging your battery, which is obviously kind of handy, but there's also a switch on it where you can flip it to the auxiliary and see what the current charge status is of the house batteries. The RV has two different sets of batteries. It has one for the motor, the engine, and it has one for the actual rest of the coach that they call the house batteries that operates your lights and pumps and things that you live off of. So with this gauge, the way they configured it, you can see the charge on both of them. And then right off to the side here is another little switch, and that lets you combine both batteries if you need them. So if you can't get your vehicle started and you want to start off the house battery, flip that switch, it combines both of them, you can get it started. It's also a good way to charge that house battery when you're going down the road. You can flip that switch and you'll charge both batteries while traveling. That's pretty cool. And then the other gauge over here to the side is the generator panel, and this does have a generator from the factory. And what you see is the hour meter. So there's quite a bit of hours on here, obviously. And the generator light, which the previous owner has taped off. And I'll tell you, it's really bright even with the tape on it. So I imagine at nighttime, it was probably bothering him. So he put a little piece of tape on top. And then you can start and stop that generator from this panel as well. Now mine has this little extra control panel down here, which is kind of rare actually. A lot of these old RVs did not have air conditioning, or I should say dash air, onboard air conditioning. So when you're going down a highway, it comes out these vents. This particular model did, and that is a control panel for that. So it turns on and off the air conditioner. And then you have some buttons that really need restored. And it's basically from top to bottom, it is a heater, defrost, then there's on-off heat, and then on the very bottom is fresh air, which controls some flapper doors on the front of the RV, which brings fresh air up around your legs. In fact, there's also these little side vents that you can also open up and bring in more fresh air around your legs. But if you have chassis air, why would you do that, right? Now, obviously the RV is showing its age and it's going to need a restoration at some point. And I bought it knowing that I was going to need to restore it. The bones are really good. This particular Winnebago is exceptionally solid. There is no soft spots on the floors. The roof is in really good shape. There is a little spot where there was some damage in the corner where it leaked at one time, but it doesn't leak anymore. And for the most part, this RV, as we know it, was stored in a barn for most of its life. So it really didn't see outside weather. Now, I'm not capable of storing it in a structure right now, so I cover it when I'm not using it. I have an RV cover and it stays very dry. So hopefully I can preserve it. And I will say, as long as I've had it, I think I bought this 2012 or 2013, it has not really changed any at all. The condition you see it in is the same condition I bought it in. And as of now, we just use it and enjoy it. So there you have the nickel tour of the 1970 Winnebago, at least the inside. I did do an outside tour. I will put a link up here in case you missed it. But there's not much going on in here. It's pretty much what you would expect from 1970. It did have some cool features that other RVs didn't have, such as the underneath the closet, you have the vacuum cleaner. They advertised it as central vac, by the way, which, as you can see, it kind of is. It's centrally located. It does have a pretty cool water heater that not many of them have. It's actually tied to the engine. The water heater sits under here, but it has a line that runs all the way to the engine, all the way back. And as you're driving down the road, that heats your water, which is really awesome. There's been many times where we've pulled over and we've washed our hands and used the bathroom or took a shower and we had hot water because the engine kept it warm. So that's a feature. I think they called that Ready Heat, and it also was an option. You pretty much didn't get it unless you special ordered it or you bought a Chieftain. So that brings us toward to kind of the last final moments of what are we going to do with this RV? Well, there are some restorations where you restore the RV to its original shape and its original condition, and then you enjoy it, which is awesome. Or you can do kind of a modern restoration where you rebuild it and build it the way you want it. Keep it with a retro perspective, so it still kind of has that old feel of a Winnebago. And that's kind of what I want to do with it. I'm not real sure what layout I want to do, what change I want to do, but I do want to make the bathroom a little bit different. It's very small. I don't really like the twin beds in the back, so that might have to go at one point. But I don't know. At one point, we will remodel this camper. We will redo it. We will do it right, and we'll build a very cool rig that is a one-off. And I hate to do that because I know these rigs are very rare with the two doors, the door in the back. There's only a handful that I can even find online. But I also don't want a rig that is limiting me to my enjoyability. So I think a total retro rebuild is possibly what the future of this RV holds. But right now, we're just going to enjoy it and use it.